Shane, I invite you to come forward and tell us about how God has given you so much by saying yes to God. And before he gets started, just like I did at the last service, make sure you got that one for you. It takes a lot of courage to come and do this, and I know some of you have, some of you haven't. If something really lands with you and strikes you from what Shane shares today afterward, don't just go up to Shane and be like, thanks for talking today, Shane. That's a nice thing to do, but say, this is what really mattered to me. This is what was really good or helpful, because that's a really good affirmation. So thank you, Shane. You got this.
All right.
I believe in you.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Compassion and empathy, it's two words I'm thinking about as I was preparing for this week for our pastors. This takes a lot more time than you think it does. So I'll start with a question. Raise your hand if your parents made you do something you didn't want to do, but you knew, maybe not at the moment, but surely now it was for your best. Okay, I knew it. Many of us have stories to share on this subject. Here's one of mine. In the early summer of 1990, my father saw a sign on the door of our youth group leader's office. Joanne Stentoff was her name. Mission trip to Monterrey, Mexico, 12 days, travel by bus. Side note, this bus turned out to be from the 1960s. There was no air conditioning, and the path to Mexico goes through Texas in early August. But I digress. I didn't want to do this, and neither did Aaron. Aaron is the other kid that went from our church. He didn't do anything with the youth group, and I did very little. So we were the unlikely two to go on this trip. The kids that did a lot of stuff with the youth group, they didn't go, but we did. And we went, and what an experience we had. I met some colorful characters from other churches, some unlikely ones too, like us. The whole experience was formative for my development, for my character, and my faith. The night we arrived at the border, they didn't let us in. And with no place planned to stay, God showed up. A member of a church in some way learned of our predicament. He lived outside Laredo, Texas, had a big property and a building that was more or less a gymnasium. So we camped out there for the night, and we were able to cross the next morning. Now, during this trip, while visiting a neighborhood on the outskirts of Monterrey, and if you're familiar with cities in Mexico, the further you go out from the city center, the poorer the city is. So these were streets of, for the most part, just gravel and cinder block houses, and a spigot maybe to share for water. But in an area like this, a group of us were offered food on the street. Well, if you know anything about Mexico, you are to avoid some of the food, and you're to avoid the water, unless bottled. Well, the fruit was offered was on melting ice, and we could see it, and we were thinking hard if maybe we should not eat this. But Joanne knew that the person was grateful for our presence and wanted to share their hospitality. So Joanne looked at us and said, well, I think it'd be good to accept this. Let's pray on it and we'll eat. So we said a prayer of protection, very emphatic prayer, and we ate the fruits. We did not get sick. After we returned, this is one of the stories I recounted to a congregation at the time. I'm now recounting to you another congregation many, many years later. The whole experience was possible by my dad saying yes for me and even in spite of me. Now, more recently, there are moments in my life saying yes has expanded my experience with God and my faith. Several years ago, a fellow congregant, I'll call him Scott, because that's his name, asked if I wanted to have my son Drew join Cub Scouts. I said yes. Not long after that, I was asked to be a den leader. I said, sure, yes. And a few years later, I was asked to take on the role of Cub Master. I said no. I said actually maybe. And eventually I did say yes after the person that was going to do it bowed out. It is, after all, a job no one wanted. And one thing in my life I've sort of learned is some of the best jobs are the ones that nobody wants. I asked God through prayer to help me do this, feeling that mainly I wasn't equipped to do the role at all, but God provided through other leaders, through parents, through the Boy Scout training, and through personal growth, and through a motivation I didn't know was there. You might be asking, well, what does Cub Scouts have to do with our faith? Well, actually quite a bit. Anyone who knows the foundations of scouting and what scouts do can see Christ in it. Do a good turn daily. Help other people at all times. A scout is reverent. This is just a small sampling of the foundations of the organization. And for me, being a part of and sustaining this community that looks to help others and build character in the young, all while having fun together, was a great thing. I'd always be in a rush, running around trying to get everything ready for these meetings and some of the outings. And I'd sometimes, actually always, be questioning what I got myself into. But after them, I always felt great. I felt full. In taking this on, I learned more about who I was, how I best operated as a leader, what I was good at, and equally importantly, what I was not good at, and when and how to know that and admit that I needed help. Well, I believe the kids received quite a bit of joy out of it. The joy was mine too. What is joy, you ask? In this instance, the formula is simple. It's having fun while doing good, and that's what it was. Now, I'm not going to lie and say it was all easy, because it was challenging. And at times, it would be hard. But looking back, now a few years later, I cannot help but smile. All this from one word, just saying yes. And I want to offer a plug here for St. John's. About this time, we had 2 packs in Mount. Most of the upper leadership of both went to one church, and you are sitting in it. I think that says something about this congregation. About the same time, Miss Kathy asked me if I'd help teach Sunday school. I said yes. Again, this was something I was nervous about. But again, I stepped out on faith, and God answered in wonderful families, in a children's director that makes it easy. It makes you feel great about what you are doing, and a faith tradition that talks of the good news. What a great thing to talk about. From this experience, I've gained a better understanding of the word. And it's been said, if you really want to understand something, teach it. And in teaching it, especially at a fundamental level, you, the teacher, gain a better insight and hopefully can apply it to the here and now. Hey kids, what can we do in this situation at school? Or hey kids, what can we do for a person who might feel left out or need a lift? How can we be good to our parents? After all, we repeat these biblical stories to provide a continual reinforcement to trust that God is part of our story. A story that is not just in a book, but active today, right here, right now. By answering, how can we be like Daniel, like Joseph, or Mary, or Martha, Caleb, or Ruth? We can show people of faith how to respond in a world that can sometimes be very dark. Through this continual learning and doing Sunday school, I've not just learned more, but I've developed a better comfortability in talking about faith, about the Bible, and leading prayer. It's not easy stuff. And like my Cub Scout experience, the opportunity gave me a better understanding of myself. One thing I figured out, that I have a pretty good knack at reading kids' personalities and trying to reach them where they are at. Some kids are more challenging than others, and it's great when you can develop a way to communicate with them and relate to them. All this by saying yes. Now, more recently, you were perhaps surprised to see me up in the choir loft. But no one, and I mean no one, was more surprised than myself. How did this happen? Well, I love music. We all do. And I would talk to Sarah and her husband Mark often after services about some hymns or the music. So when Sarah sent out an email a few years ago asking for people to think about joining the choir, I said, yes. While this has indeed given me more confidence in my voice and a better knowledge of choral music, the most enriching aspect about this adventure, and it's exactly what it is for me, sitting in those early rehearsals was very difficult for me. But the most enriching thing is one I did not see coming at all, the enrichment of my worship experience. To lend a voice of praise to God, to really, as Sarah would tell us in our rehearsals, think about the words you are singing. Think about what this music says, what this music means. When we sing a hymn, these are words of praise, of joy, sometimes sorrow. Sing them like they deserve to be sung. And it's not about hitting the exact pitch. It's letting your voice be heard in unison with everyone else in the pews offering up a song of praise. One of my favorite services of the year is not Christmas, though it's great. I love Christmas. And it's not Easter, though it is joyful. My Easter is now not complete without attending this service, and it's Good Friday. Now, having an active part in that has taught me that. You should know we as a choir prepare more for this service than any other. We have more music and a bigger role. Being able to witness this from that side of the choir loft has taught me a lot about our faith. In fact, all the yeses I've said have resonated with my soul. Reading the Bible with kids in Sunday school, having a blast with the Cub Scouts at a fun event and giving them joy with their parents, leaving a Good Friday service with a deep feeling of both sadness and gratitude. These soul-nourishing things all happen just by saying yes, just by taking a step of faith. By doing this, you can witness God show up in unexpected ways. So what began with a reluctant trip to Mexico, a trip initiated by my earthly father, has pointed the way to callings from my heavenly Father, callings that, while sometimes challenging, have enabled me to see God at work and have fed my soul and to get past sometimes the void of doubt in my head. So I'll end with a question for you. What is God perhaps wanting from you? What is God waiting for you to say yes to?
And that will